Let's bring back in Alan Dershowitz, professor of law at Harvard University and author of Taking the Stand, My Life in the Law, in which he writes extensively about the future of same-sex marriage. Now, the Supreme Court isn't likely to accept the Utah case, which would effectively uphold the ruling. What happens next for opponents of same-sex marriage in Utah?
Well, the case will be argued to the United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, which is a fairly balanced conservative court, but I think it will uphold the federal district court. Look, this is only a matter of time. 10 years from now, nobody will understand why these issues were even being litigated. This is not at all like abortion, which Roe versus Wade didn't change many opinions in the United States. The trend is so clearly in favor of gay marriage that in 10 years, every state will permit it. It won't come from the top down from the Supreme Court. It will come from the bottom up. It will come from the people. Young people don't understand the issue of why you deny equality to gay people. So we're seeing it in Utah. We're seeing it in Ohio. I think we'll see it in Indiana. I suspect that very soon every state will have gay marriage. And I think Utah, because it's such a conservative state, will really show the way.
You mentioned that it won't come from the top down, so to speak. The Supreme Court did have two opportunities this year to legalize gay marriage. Both times they favored gay marriage, but ruled narrowly so that didn't actually define marriage. What is the significance of this? And more specifically, why do you think the Supreme Court has been leaving it to the states? And will they continue to do so, or do you think that at some point they might have to weigh in on a federal level?
Well, I hope not. I think they learned the lesson from Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade was a terrible mistake. Abortion was being legalized in many states and throughout the world, and the Supreme Court, by taking the case and constitutionalizing it, created a major conflict, and that conflict still exists and hasn't been resolved. It's so much better for democracy when issues of this kind are resolved from the bottom up, when the people make the decision. Of course, also in abortion, there's a victim. If you believe the fetus is a human being, there's a victim. In gay marriage, whose business is it if people get married other than the people themselves? There's no countervailing argument on the other side. The absurd notion that heterosexual marriages are somehow interfered with if gay people get married is so absurd it doesn't even deserve a response, and has been rejected clearly by the courts appropriately. So I think we're going to see a major trend whereby states, state legislatures, even eventually referenda will approve gay marriage. The Indiana case is an interesting one because there is a referendum now pending which is clearly unconstitutional. It says that even other than marriage, even other rights won't apply equally to gays, and that would be struck down.
I was going to ask you about this, so let me actually read to our viewers part of what that language is. A legal status identical or substantially similar to that of marriage for unmarried individuals shall not be valid or recognized. You do think, so just to be clear, this is something that the Indiana State Legislature is considering adding to a ban that they already have on gay marriage. Do you think that that will not be upheld if they pass it?
Well, that would clearly be unconstitutional. That even, prohibits kind of a status equivalent to marriage, a civil status for gay people. It denies fundamental equality, and it's a dinosaur. It's on the way out. And let's concentrate on other matters. This is not an issue that affects other people's rights. Let's just understand that gay and lesbian people have the same rights as the rest of us. This is, again, like desegregation. 30 years ago, it was prohibited for white and black people to marry each other. Today, people don't even, when I tell my students that, they don't believe it. They have to check it out to see that there was ever a time when there were statutes prohibiting white and black people from marrying each other. And I think 20 years from now, people will have to look it up to say, oh, my God, was there ever a time when men were not allowed to marry each other and women were not allowed to marry each other? It's just a dinosaur, and we have to recognize that and move on to other issues that really have two sides to them. This one is a one-sided issue.
Alan Dershowitz, thank you very much for coming in on this Christmas Day. Happy holidays. And ahead,
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thanks.